Alright all, and welcome back to a new video, and what might be one of the last flat videos of the campaign. It is Champions Day at Ascot tomorrow, and obviously a great day's racing, and it felt wrong to not go and try and preview it and try and find a couple of winners to finish off the year. Obviously we're getting into the jump season, which is great for myself. I know a fair bit more about the jumps than I do about flat racing, and hopefully we can go back to returning to previewing, Irish action on a Sunday and all that good stuff going forward. But we do have 6 races to cover over at Ascot, a few Group 1s, a Group 2 and a big handicap as well, so plenty to get into. Starting off with the 2 mile long distance cup, Stradivarius a pretty warm order for this race, a shade of odds on. Evans is out there though, and perhaps Evans may end up seeming like a very good piece of business in the market, because remember in the Ascot Gold Cup he drifted out to 4 to 5, 5 to 6, near enough the off, and won it by 15 lengths I think in the end. So you just don't know with Stradivarius. Personally, I think he's a little bit vulnerable tomorrow, I must confess. I think he's just... I was a little bit disappointed with the Arc run. Obviously, I put him up for the Arc, and I just thought it was a bit of a lifeless run. Like, I know the race wasn't run to suit, but I still thought he'd, pick up and find a little bit more than he ended up doing so, and maybe he was just given an easy time of things, and therefore he should be spot on for a race like this. But it was still a little bit disappointing. He was beaten in the race last year. The ground isn't maybe as with him as it could be, and I just think 5 to 6 even money. I'm prepared to leave it and hope that he does win. For racing's sake, it would be better if he does win, personally, but I just couldn't be getting involved in those short odds. I think more so the play for me is an each-way one on Dawn Patrol in this. He's best price 12 to 1. He's a 3-year-old colt and a really improving one at that. Stepping up to 2 miles for the first time last time out to win the Lochbrowne Stakes at the Curragh Group 3 affair, beating Barrington Court, who'd had some decent enough form tied in with Princess Zoe, and Castaza, who's been a really solid staying mare for Dermot Wells last year and this year. So it was a decent enough race at that. And he won that very snug, I thought, by around 3/4 of a length. This horse has done nothing but improve for the step up in trip. He was 3rd in the Irish Derby back in the middle of summer. He was then 3rd in a Leopardstown listed race behind Pista, who's gone on to frank form, and then was 6th in the Ledger when staying on at the death, was beaten around 4 or 5 lengths. It could possibly be feasible that this is their cup horse for the next few years. Certainly he's worth a try at these distances, and I'd be very, very interested to see how he goes in this race. 12 to 1, as I say, seems a fair price. Pierre-Charles Boudot is booked. He's a very good jockey. Aidan O'Brien, a master trainer. I think there's plenty to like. Going on to the sprint, often can bring up a bit of a, uncharacteristic result, I suppose. Don Juan triumphant one at one year for Andrew Balding at big odds. And I'd be against Dream of Dreams at the top of the market here at 7 to 4. I think he's pretty skimpy considering he came second last in the race last year. You could make an argument he's a better horse this year, which is probably fair. He does seem to be improving, and he won very well last time out at Haydock. But I still think there's just enough on the balance of evidence to take him on at this time of year in this race. And again, it's going to be an each-way selection. I'm a big fan of Art Power, as many of you guys will know. I backed him when he won the House of Holyroyd handicap at the Royal Ascot meeting, which was a bit of a blitz job. He then went over to Ireland, won the Lacken Stakes with Colin Keane on board, beating Millar by 3.5. So this is a really good horse. He flopped then in the Nunthorpe before 4th behind Dream of Dreams last time out at Haydock. That was a lot more like it, and there seems to be still a bit of improvement to come from this horse. He's a 3-year-old, so he is open to that bit of improvement. He's still relatively lightly raced in comparison to the majority of these, and 12 to 1 I think is a fair each-way price. Sylvester de Souza could also equally have ridden Happy Power, who's been very progressive the last few weeks for the Andrew Balding team. He's been sweeping up Group 3s and Group 2s at 6 and 7 furlongs, but he's opted for Art Power. He obviously thinks there's a little bit more to come, and hopefully this Son of Dark Angel can get back on track and can land his first Group 1. The Fillies and Mares over a mile 4 looks a very interesting race. A lot of them bringing fair collateral form from the Prix Vermeil. where both Dame Malio, Wonderful Tonight, and Even So all ran behind Tarnawa. And the one I'd be taking in this race is Even So at 13-2. Again, it's probably just about an each-way price. You're getting a bit skimpy for each-way betting, personally, but I think you could just about say it is. She's a very good filly, this. She won the Irish Oaks beating KM Pepper. KM Pepper has won twice since and looks to have franked that form very well at the end of the day, and also has close form tied in with Tarnawa herself. Before that, she'd won on soft ground in her maiden at the back end of last year at Gorham Park. She was third in a listed race on heavy at Naas. She won a listed race at Naas, beating Laburnum of Aidan O'Brien's on soft-ish ground as well. So she goes with a little bit of dig underfoot, and I just think she was only a half length behind Wonderful Tonight in that Vermine, only a length and a half behind Dame Malio. And Wonderful Tonight, even though she's gone out and won a great race over on Arc weekend, Even So's been freshened up since. Ger Lyons doesn't throw these horses into these races unless he thinks they can do a job, and I think Even So could run a big race. Colin Keane riding out of his skin as well at the moment. The 305 is the QE2, and this is going to be a pretty simple one. You guys know how much I like Palace Pier. Whether you want to get involved at 4-6 is really up to the individual punter. Depends how much money you have, probably. I'd maybe advise against going mad in on any favourite on Champions Day. It's a little bit of a graveyard for punters at times, but I do really hope Palace Pier wins here. He's been the superstar miler of the year. The St James's Palace and the Prix Jacques Le Marois bring by far the best form into this race, and hopefully he can just go and do the business. He seemed to handle a little bit of dig in the ground over in France last time, so the forecast, yielding ground or good to soft ground should be of no issue to him at all. He seems quite versatile, and I really think he should be collecting, but 4-6 would indicate that. The 340 is the Champion Stakes, and I feel dubious taking on Magical, because I think actually with her being 2-1 on some boards is really, really tempting as a bet, to be honest, because she won the race last year. She won the Irish Champion Stakes last time out, beating Gayat and Thotsas, and you guys know I wasn't particularly keen on her for that race, but you got to hold your hands up at the end of the day and sometimes admit you're wrong, and I've been wrong about Magical this time round, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if she goes and gets the job done. Again, maybe perhaps a hint skinny, but as I say, going out to 2-1, 9-4, she begins to be almost bettable territory. The one I'm just going to side with at a much bigger price is Serpentine. He's around 16-1 with a few bookmakers, and I just think this is a horse that perhaps people aren't giving the deserved credit to. The only thing I'm not so sure about is this step down to 10 furlongs. He obviously won the Derby. Now, the Derby was a bit of a farce. Let's not kind of beat around the bush, but I was really quite impressed with his fourth in the Group 1 over in France, the Grand Prix de Paris, when he was behind Mogul, In Swoop and Gold Trip. Now, In Swoop ended up coming second in the Arc, and Gold Trip came fourth in the Arc, I believe, and they were second and third in that race. And Serpentine got an odd ride. He wasn't forceful at all on him. He was held up in kind of mid-division and ridden quite patiently, looking a little bit like a bit of a prep run, if I'm being honest, for the Arc. Now, they've ended up coming here instead because of the whole debacle with the feed. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes, but I do think he might take a bit of stopping, especially on maybe a little bit of rain softened ground over 10 furlongs, and a fair few of these might have to sprout some wings to go by him. Maybe I'm picking up the wrong end of the stick, but I think he's a horse that maybe people are kind of brushing over a little too easily, considering he won the Derby by 5 lengths. And the final race on the card is the Balmoral Handicap, and if any of you guys follow me regularly here or on Twitter, you'll know I don't really look at the top of the market in a lot of these races, but I cannot get away from Raeeq in this race. He's still 5-1. I can't be advising 5-1 each way. That's far too short for an each way bet, personally. But I just think this horse is a massive improver. I'm going to take a chance that he's just too good for this field, running off a mark of 103. He won his second race as a 2-year-old last year, then was put away. Maybe there must have been some little bit of a setback, because he only reappeared in August when he was second at Sandown. He then went on to win at Sandown over a mile. and won last time out at Ascot over 7 furlongs on rain softened ground by 5 lengths off a mark of 97. He's up to 103, running off 9 stone 3. I just do think this horse is potentially better than this level. I'm not going to spout the infamous group horse thing, because that stuff really annoys me, group horse and a handicap stuff. You're chatting brown if you constantly say those sort of things, but I just think after he won last time out, I was surprised. I put it up on Twitter, I thought the next time we'd see him would be in maybe a listed race or a Group 3 race. So it's interesting to see that he still is in a handicap, and I think he's a potential improver. An awful lot of these, you know what they are, you know what they're going to provide. This is still a 3-year-old, potentially well up there. The only thing he does lack is these big race experience, but I'm going to take that chance on him, and hopefully runs a huge race for the Brian Meehan yard. Jim Crowley in the saddle, who's had a brilliant year. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below. And of course, give me your selections for Champions Day over at Ascot if you have them down in the comments. And until next time, where we'll be probably back previewing some jumps action next week or in a few weeks' time, I hope you stay safe, stay well, land a few bets, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.